So Nicole, you can kind of take it away. I'll be here to support as you need me, but we'd love to kind of just have you go through what you'd like to kind of present on the Social Tokens DAO.
Thank you. Yes, I was bumping around the metaverse or something. I don't know where I was, but I'm back. So I, as I mentioned, I am with Seed Club and the Social Token DAO, and I'm going to just share a little bit about specifically what we are looking for, how we are going to be evaluating sessions, and just a little bit about who Seed Club is in general and why we are participating. Huge thanks to Jordan and Chloe and James and all of the near folks and all of the partners for making this happen. I know from much personal experience that events are a ton of work and hackathons. And so like Vandal said, like this is a lot of behind the scenes work to bring us all here. So thanks for having us. Seed Club is super excited to be a part of this. And as a bunch of folks said, like I think that there's a lot of cool features like Jordan, what you were sharing was getting me really excited, especially when we think about like all of the different ways that we can play and interact together in all of these new spaces and, enjoy people's art, enjoy what they're creating, and find new ways to connect. So, all right, let me start. I'm going to share my screen. Yeah. All right, y'all see that?
Not as of yet. Oh, there it goes. Perfect.
Okay, cool. So yes, we are Seed Club. I'm gonna just fly blind and hope for the best. So let's talk about the social token track and what these, I'm calling them design challenges, but kind of like the I don't know, inspiration points, jumping off points that we are interested in seeing and how we're going to be thinking about the bounties. Of course, we're still participating in all of the like, ideate, do a video demo, have the presentation, et cetera, et cetera. So there's going to be bounties throughout, which I think is really fun to just like stay involved and get motivated. And then for the final GitHub submission, this is how we're going to be thinking about it. So first, a little bit about who we are. Seed Club is here to basically incubate and accelerate design, launch, and growth of social token space, backed by leaders in the social token ecosystem. We provide mentorship, thought leadership, and programming. So we've had 2 runs now of a little incubator for projects and have had some really cool projects come out so far. Jump just launched recently in like the ad and brand space, and they're doing some really cool stuff with a lot of top brands. Jeff, who runs that, is amazing. I sit on the board of Ampled, which is a music co-op owned and run by artists and workers, and sort of Patreon-like, but specifically for musicians, and again, owned by the people who benefit and build it. And they were part of the Seed Club second cohort and are looking into social tokens. One of the things I'm excited about, which you're gonna see, is that people specifically have been contributing ideas, and they're saying, like, these are things that we'd like to see built. We are also chain agnostic, but I think that, we want to be in a place where people are building great solutions. I love seeing the cross-chain solutions as well, because I think that like ultimately users aren't going to care, community members aren't going to necessarily say like, oh, well, I only go on this chain or I only go on that chain. Like we want things that work and enable people to not sort of come up against roadblocks. And so, so Jess Loss, main instigator of Seed Club. And then I have a partner in crime, Ben Jacobs. He's going to be popping on for various like office hours and sessions throughout as well. We're in the Discord, so anything that you need, please hit us up. that is where you can find us. And I'll drop the Discord links again into the chat. So there's kind of three main themes or design challenges that we are looking at. And actually, I'm going to start with this bottom one first, because I come from an education background, and so perhaps I'm biased, but I think that this is really important basically for everybody. And I think that we were talking about this before. How do we make sure that the UX experience is accessible and educational? One of the things that, and I think I mentioned, so yeah, I come from a lot of different fields, but I also come from the music industry, which is sort of famous for making it really challenging for artists to put their information in a like a comprehensive way, and understanding like, did I enter my information right so that I get credited for the song, or so that I get paid for the song? And then on the other side, like being able to understand, like, am I reading these reports correctly, et cetera, et cetera. I think that educational and accessible platforms are so important. One great example, I think, is Squarespace. Like when projects like, or platforms like Squarespace, for example, came on the market, all of a sudden, you know, their whole thing was basically anybody can have a website. And if you've ever listened to a podcast, you know that that's their main marketing ploy. And so Squarespace, I think TurboTax is another example of these platforms that educate the user. And so while you may have thoughts on like whether either of those are good platforms, what I want to sort of call attention to is that as you're going along, they'll say like, do you want to do this thing? And you're like, I don't know what this thing is. Like, I don't know if that's the right tax decision for me, or I don't know if this is the right web design decision for me. Let me find out more about what it is. And so you can click, and then they'll bring you to like a wiki or a little information box, and they'll explain how this works, so that you then feel comfortable in this new world, whether it's tax code or web design. I think similarly, using these sort of like edu platforms or edu UX is a really important thing to be doing in this space, especially because there's a lot of people that are interested in it, but like security and sort of functionality, and being able to also like, you know, understand like what your seed phrase is, or understand, you know, what blockchain you're in, and whether you're going to be able to sort of like go from chain to chain, understanding sort of the implications of the choices that you're making as a user, I think is really important. And sort of navigating that boundary between having it be too easy so that you're not really aware of what you're doing, or like too complicated where it becomes like scary and off-putting. So I'm going to start there. I think that this is one of the things that we're looking for, is like, how do you make this really accessible for, you know, populations that are crypto native and sort of crypto neophytes. So then let's go into the onboarding. How do you get people excited and make it the sort of viral experience where it's not just you doing it, but they bring in their friends? So, you know, are there like bonuses for adding friends, or like, are there interesting, cool ways to do airdrops? What are the different experiences that you can design? And I think that, and I'm going to get into this a little bit with the playful growth strategies as well, I think that this is where it starts to become fun to play around with some of the other DAOs as well. So, you know, with NFTs, I think that's a perfect example. If there's a community sort of building up around a specific type of NFT, so Jess has been participating in the Squiggle DAO, are there, you know, sort of viral ways to get people interested in what this community means, and then start bringing people in? And I think this especially works well for communities that might sort of not understand that they're a community, or communities that are growing. And how can you make that really like fun and sort of play into the best parts of internet culture? And then this final one, playful growth strategies. This, I think, gets into what Jordan was talking about a little bit with, which one was it? The one where you can stake different pieces of art and then earn other tokens. And so I think that these are really fun. And I think that there's maybe the most room for different things that we haven't seen, or as Jordan was saying, looking at, you know, are there things on other chains that might be built within the Near ecosystem? So are there ways to sort of gamify these different experiences? I think that it was a session with James Young, like that I was in a few months ago, where he was talking about the sort of dual currencies in Chuck E. Cheese, where you buy the tickets, you play the games, you get the Chuck E. Cheese tokens, and then in the Chuck E. Cheese tokens, you can then go to the store. And so I think thinking about that sort of like dual token strategy, where there's two different tokens that have different functions, and you can play with them sort of in that world or in that community in different ways. And then curation games. So if you're looking, for example, at like Mirror, and I think that there's a lot of others, how do you get the community involved in curating and bringing in other users and make that really playful and fun? And again, I think Mirror is a great example of that. Let's see. And then finally, oh yeah, this is important. Social token track bounties and criteria. So when we are looking at the final projects, first of all, we hope that you'll adhere to the design challenges, of course. We are chain agnostic, but it would be great to explore use cases within the Near ecosystem. And I think that there's a lot of great people in the community in these weeks here to support that. How do you bring people in from top of funnel and then get them to engage and stay? As I just mentioned, using games, viral experiences. This, I think, is really important. There's a lot of work to be done with bots or integrating with other experiences or apps that are already out there, and how can you make it so that sort of the user experience going from like one place to another feels really fluid. I talked about the interfaces. Obviously, earning and purchase needs to be really clear and accessible so you understand what you've got. And then finally, just throwing this out again, that I think that as we look at other tracks and DAOs, are there ways to integrate some of those experiences, whether it's the music side or the governance side or what have you. All right, so that is it. And I'm going to check the chat and see if there's any questions. Chloe, anything that I should have mentioned? Arcade tycoons, for sure.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And animatronics, definitely animatronic mice should be a big portion of this track. So as I mentioned, I'll be around in the social token track near Discord. I will be in the ideation jam tomorrow. I'll put that link again into the chat. And other than that, thank you for having me. And yeah, agree, Jordan. They sure do mesh with everything.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So if anyone has any more questions for Nicole, feel free to ask them in the chat. I saw a hand raised for a second, but looks like there are no more questions. So we will end this session here, and we will have a little break again, going back to the tables. Feel free to use, again, the networking tables there, or use the group tables that are already named to continue discussing over these topics. If you have any questions about how to get involved in the hackathon, I will be sitting at the getting started table. So you can either, talk about your idea, talk about next steps on how to, how to get going. So we will be hopping off the table now. Thank you very much, everybody. The next session will be getting started with introducing the MetaGov challenge, coming up in about 35 minutes. Thank you.